All right, next up, let's look at the overview of time-based statistics table. So the table on the bottom left, which as you probably have guessed will show an overview of the time-based statistics for each asset. So we just looked at the distance statistics, now we're going to look at the time-based statistics. This table is very simple, it won't take us a lot of time to go over it. Let me just reset this, I'm going to explain this one later on. But what we see here is very simply put the overview of the time adjusted probabilities for each asset. So for example, we have here ENS, current P1 hour 0. What this means is that the time adjusted probability of hour 0 being the P1. So this is once again the time adjusted probability. So it's filtered for the current context, as in which pivots are still left, which hours of the day are still left to possibly put in a P1. But I went over this in the videos on the time-based tutorials. Basically what it's saying is in hour 0 has an 87.4% time adjusted probability. If we go here and I select ENS, then we will see this happen. So we have P1 at hour 0 and 87.4% time adjusted probability as here. P2 is at hour 10. We can see and we know that P2 can become P1, but it can also stay P2, right? Whereas P1 can only be P1. So we have here both the chances of becoming P1 or P2, or at least the time adjusted probabilities. We can see that current hour 10 is 5.3% time adjusted probability. And we see here for P1, right? Hour 10, 5.3%. And then we see here 2.6% for the current P2, for hour 10 to be P2. And indeed 2.6% right here, right? So that's basically all there is to it, to interpreting that in that sense. There's only one thing here, the pivot group. What you have to understand is that what we can do is, instead of looking at individual hours, but this is, you probably already noticed, but you can go up and say, well, instead of looking at when pivots are being put in individual hours, you can look at when are pivots being put in 3-hour candles. So instead of looking at what's the chance of being hour 0, P1, we can look at what's the chance of P1 being in between hour 0 and hour 3. And what we see here is then 81.1%. Let's change this to 3-hour, and then we'll probably have to find ENS again. Let me just, oh, there was ENS. There it is. 81.1% for P1, 81.1%. Between 9 and 12, a P1 11.5%. 11.5%, and here current P2 is dated P2, 9% to be P2, 9% right here. So that's the difference for this pivot group. It basically just shows you, it calculates what the pivot frequencies are per hour or aggregated per 3 hours. So that depends on you, what you prefer. Then one final tip is what you can do is, usually I have it formatted like this, but what you can do, you can actually click here, one asset or multiple assets if you hold shift, and this will select only the assets you want to see the time adjusted probabilities for. But in the next tutorial we will look more into this and to see how we actually apply this page most effectively, or at least one strategy that you can use with it. So for that, I will see you in the next video.